obviously the Aaron Rodgers debacle is over. The Devontae Adams debacle is done. They've got a new coach in Aaron Glenn, who I am very, very high on. I love Aaron Glenn. And I am here to tell you guys the moves the Jets need to make to get out of the cellar of the AFC and be back to what they were in the days of Rex Ryan and Mark Sanchez and consistently making the playoffs. And here's how they do it. I'm going to give you some moves. Be sure to watch this video. I'm telling you, the last one is going to be the most important. So, first off, talk about the cap situation. They are $14.5 million in available cap space they have right now. They're going to cut Devontae Adams. I think that's going to give them a decent chunk of more cap space to go be a little more flexible in this offseason to go get free agents. I think that, obviously Rodgers is out, how that's going to affect, sort of the cap situation on when they release him, how that's going to look, may move that number a little bit, but that doesn't change really what you need. So I'm going to give you guys a clear-cut way. So I think right now, the Jets are going to go into free agency, and the first thing you need to do is you need to find yourself a bridge quarterback. Now, there's a couple of names that are true high-character guys. I think that, teammates love them. They are really quality guys, but they're mid-tier quarterbacks, right? They're a backup, can do with some spot starts, but realistically, you're not expecting to win anything right now with these guys. These are guys that people learn under. They're great teammates, and they can develop and do that what you need. Now, obviously, Tyrod Taylor, you have some names on there for roster stuff. I think these guys are better than those players. I think they've proven to be better than those players that you have on the roster right now. And that's what I'm going to bring up. Obviously, the first one's going to be Jameis Winston. I think Jameis Winston, 2 years, something like $12.5 million, maybe a little bit less than that. Jameis Winston can win you football games. Jameis Winston can be competitive. We've seen him be competitive. We know he can throw the football, but it just depends on which Jameis Winston you're getting. Are you getting 5 touchdown, 500-yard Jameis Winston? Or are you getting, 5 interception, 2 touchdown, 400-yard Jameis Winston? That's kind of what you're going to live with this. But he's a team guy. He's good for the locker room. All the guys that play with him love him. He hypes people up, whether he's starting, playing, injured, does not matter. He's a team-first guy, a good personality to have in the locker room, and a high-quality character player that a lot of players in the NFL seem to really gravitate to and like. And that's what you need. You need to build a culture, Jets fans. This is not about winning games right now. It's about building culture to win games later. No one's expecting you to go into this offseason, get the perfect players, and you're back. You're just going to be in the playoffs, competing for a Super Bowl. That's not how this works. You need 1 to 2 years. The Detroit Lions were not the Detroit Lions we've seen the last couple of years, the first year that Dan Campbell got there. They just weren't. You're hoping for a Detroit Lions time frame of excellence. All right? You're hoping for Dan Campbell's first year, into the second year, where they are now. Okay? That's what Aaron Glenn is here to give you. You need a character, a quarterback guy who can fill that void for you while you get your next quarterback going. Be patient. The other quarterback I'm looking at for you, Jameis Winston, is not quite your type. Jacoby Brissett. High-quality character guy, doesn't say a lot in the media, doesn't let a lot rattle him, but you know what you're getting, right? Takes care of the football, doesn't turn the football over. He'll play very, very close to cards close to the chest, very, controlled. Doesn't put the ball in danger very often, but that also limits you on the opportunity to be explosive and do the things you're hoping the offense can do with the players you have. He's a good take care of the football, win with defense kind of quarterback. And Aaron Glenn is a defensive-minded guy. He may gravitate towards a Jacoby Brissett because Jacoby Brissett is capable of taking care of the football. I think that, you could get Brissett on like a 1 year, $3-4 million deal, very low cap hit, allows you to go out and be very aggressive in sort of the areas where you feel you need the most help. And where I feel they need the most help in free agency is getting someone like a Carlton Davis, Justin Reed, these kinds of names where you kind of bring these guys in to kind of lock up the secondary, add these things in there with Sauce Gardner, really make this team more, pass, really defend the pass a lot better on the defense, kind of get these things going a little bit. Let your edge defenders tee off on the quarterback because you do have good cover guys, right? Getting coverage sacks is not a bad thing. And I think that getting these guys in there helps really solidify your secondary for a long time. You can focus your draft picks elsewhere. And that's where I kind of go with this. So I think that, if you don't want to go that route, you could possibly go get like a Will Johnson or a Malachi Starks in the draft. Obviously, I think the best case situation is getting a Mason Graham, getting just a solid defensive interior lineman in the draft. Mason Graham would be the perfect draft pick for the Jets. Now, I did run about 10 mock drafts, tried to see if he would be available there. 4 out of 10. So there's a 40% chance on, based on how I configured PFF to run, that Mason Graham is available for the Jets at 7. Now that would be amazing. You would sprint that card up there. However, it's probably more likely that you're looking at defensive interiors and you don't want to overdraft somebody, but moving back a little bit in the draft, get a little extra draft capital wouldn't be a bad idea for the Jets. Going back, I think I did a trade right now where I looked at about going back from 7 to 14 with the Colts. The Colts obviously move up. I believe that they took a Tedero McMillan there, or another player who had kind of dropped in that situation. The Jets get a decent haul. They get 14, 45, 188, and a 2026 third. It was a decent acceptance percentage. You select Walter Nolan out of Ole Miss, defensive interior guy. He's, a little higher there, but I like Walter Nolan. I think Walter Nolan is a good interior fit for the Jets. He is a physical, dominant guy. I think he's either the second or third best defensive interior lineman in this draft, and they're all going to be gone probably in the first round. The top tier defensive interior linemen are going to be gone in this first round. You could have one of those guys. And I think, like I said, there's only 3 or 4 of them in this draft that are top tier defensive interior day one plug and play starters. Walter Nolan is one of those guys. Like I said, Mason Graham is the preferred. Walter Nolan's not a bad backup. Now, the final portion of this is probably the most important for you Jets fans, and it's finding the quarterback of the future. And while everyone's going to sit here and say that Cam Ward or Shedeur Sanders, you got to get one of those guys. They're the only, top tier guys that got a chance to be that next tier guy. I don't really feel that way. I feel that, you may find a better situation later in the rounds a little bit on some of these quarterbacks. I think that, you have to remember that where Russell Wilson was drafted, right? Where some of these other quarterbacks were drafted, they weren't necessarily first round guys, right? You can find a decent quarterback. I think Dylan Gabriel, who, had Oregon as a number 1 seed in the NCAA playoffs. You have him. You have Jackson Dart, who I really liked. I think Jackson Dart throws the football very, very well. PFF graded him very, very highly in a lot of these categories. I think he's a 92.5 PFF grade from his play this year. You have, whereas Dylan Gabriel is an 86.6. And you have Will Howard, NCAA Natty Championship guy. Will Howard, who was just with Ohio State, who showed he's physical, can run the ball a little bit. He's got a little bit of mobility, good arm. All 3 of these guys are available somewhere in the 3rd or 4th round right now for you Jets fans. So you could have a good, solid draft and get one of these guys later in the rounds and still be able to go out there and really just turn this team right around in the first year under Aaron Glenn. Now, granted, I do have a caveat to this. Woody Johnson needs to let all this happen. And I've had my problems with the Jets. I've had my problems with how the organization is run, as all Jets fans have. I'm sure that you're all understanding what I'm saying right now. But I think Aaron Glenn can build a culture. This is how you do it. And then you just go get a quarterback, one of these guys I named later in the rounds, and you see what happens. You let them develop, because Jameis Winston and Jacoby Brissett aren't going to let the media get to them. They're not going to let, the situation get to them. All these things get to them. This is not going to happen. They can show a young quarterback how to not let that happen. And that's the most important thing the Jets can do right now. Build a culture, develop a quarterback, and make smart choices. And hey, who knows? Maybe not this year. But if you do it right, you're on the right track, Jets fans.
This has been Between the Uprights. Football is life. The rest is just details.